Who do you think the winner is? Nope. Hi, I'm Chef Mike Monahan, and today we're going to give you the 3 top tips to make the best beef stock at home. Today we're going to be doing a competition between regular old-fashioned making stock and the Instant Pot. This, of course, is going to take a lot less time. This is going to take a lot more time overnight, but we're going to see how it tastes when it's all said and done. Tip number 1 of the 3, you want to make sure you get the right bones. You know, you don't see a lot of bones in grocery stores anymore because they don't break the cows down like they did back in the 70s and the early 80s where they used to have a whole half a cow come into the store. Everything's pretty much processed somewhere else and brought in boxes. So if you can't find these bones in your local grocer, look for a local meat market and get to know them well. So the different bones we're going to be using today, the first one is the marrow bone. These are the long leg bones with that marrow on the inside. That's going to melt beautifully and give our stock some delicious flavor. The second bone we're going to be using today is going to be the beef foot. This has a lot of collagen as well, which is going to make our stock nice and gelatinous. Now the third type of bone we're going to be using in this recipe today is beef neck. This is going to give us a lot of our color and flavor. Now if you'd like, you can use beef shank, but beef shank's a little bit more expensive. Okay, what about tip number 2? Tip number 2, do not ever use salt when you're making your beef broth. Why? Because you're going to be reducing this down on a secondary reduction, and even if you use a little bit of salt, it's really going to concentrate those flavors and be too salty to even use. So hold that salt until you're making the final recipe with your beef stock. Now these were roasted at 425 degrees for 1 hour and 15 minutes. You can go an hour and a half, but just keep an eye on them. You don't want to get them too brown. If you get them too brown, your sauce will taste on the burnt side. How about tip number 3? Now the recipe calls for what they call mirepoix in France. It's the onion, celery, and carrots to give you that nice aromatic. But to really elevate the flavors, tip number 3, we're going to roast them as well. So I take my onions, I take my celery and carrots, and I take 1 head of garlic. This is a small head. And I cut it in half and laid it down on this baking sheet. I put a little bit of oil down first. And I baked these right after my bones came out. 425 degrees, about 20, 25, 30 minutes. That said, let's start with our Instant Pot first. Now I have a total of 10 pounds of bones here. Each recipe is going to take 5 pounds. So I'm going to start by separating them. I'm going to put in, I have 3 each of these type. I have 3 each of this type. And also check to see if any of that marrow popped out of those bones while it was roasting in the oven. Now we're going to separate our vegetables. We have 4 pieces of onion. We have about this much carrot to separate. This much celery. Split them in half. We're going to put 1 of the pieces of garlic in and half of the carrots. We'll save the rest for pot number 2. Next we're going to split up our thyme between each. 1 bay leaf. About 8 of the peppercorns. And most importantly, you have to have an acid to help break down this collagen. So you can use apple cider vinegar, maybe 2 tablespoons of that. But I prefer, since it's a dark stock, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of the tomato paste. Next we're going to add our water, 5 quarts. And it's probably going to get almost to that max line. It's okay if a little bit sticks up because it's going to boil down as it's cooking. Now I'm removing the bones from our baking dish where I roasted them off in the oven because it's important that we use a wooden spatula. We're going to scrape half of this fond into the pot. It adds a lot of flavor. And we'll save the other half when we do the traditional way in our stock pot. Now remember, the Instant Pot's cooking on high temperature and it's also going to be cooking at high pressure. So make sure you wipe that rim down real well. You know, when any particles on there that's going to mess up your seal, and check your seal, make sure it's lined up, it's clean, and we'll get it loaded on and plug it in. Now we're going to press the pressure cook button and set it for 1 hour and 35 minutes on high. And remember, it's going to take about 10-15 minutes for the pressure to build up. Make sure your nozzle in the back is on sealed, not venting. Now, we'll make the traditional method. You'll notice that the pot I'm using is a taller stock pot. than our lower stock pot. This is because you want more depth for the broth to actually cook slowly, but you also have a smaller opening at the top so you don't lose as much moisture while it's slow cooking. We're going to add our assortment of 3 different types of bones that we roasted off at 425 degrees. We're going to add our remaining onions, carrots and celery and garlic, our thyme, bay leaf, peppercorns, and our 2 tablespoons tomato paste. We'll add a little bit of water to our roasting pan where the beef bones were, and we'll add that to the pot. And we'll add our 5 quarts of water, or until it just barely covers. Now make sure this is cold water. Don't put hot water in here. We got the fire lid, it's on high. We're gonna cover it, leaving a little bit of a vent. And when it starts to simmer, we're gonna lower it down to medium and cook it for 1 hour. Well, it's been an hour and a half. Our timer went off the Instant Pot. We unplugged it and let it set for 30 minutes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and release the steam to vent, which is not very much. And go ahead and open our lid and check it out. Boy, it looks good. Wow, smells good too. I'm gonna use my tongs here and get my big bones out of here first. Notice that marrow is gone. Just nothing but clean bones. If you have a bone that does have the marrow stuck in there, we'll just tap it out so the marrow ends up in our beef stock. Now that our bones are out, we're going to use our strainer here and get out our vegetables. Boy, the whole house smells fantastic. At this point, we're going to take some paper towels and pick up our stock. And I'm going to put it into a strainer that has a cheesecloth lining. It's going to go into a bowl. I have a bowl with a strainer and a cheesecloth lining it. We're going to do a fine strain on this beef stock. And I'm going to wash this bowl clean. Now we're going to put the stock that's been strained in our cheesecloth, drain it well, and we'll pour it back into the Instant Pot. Then we'll place it in a sink of cold water that has some ice cubes in it and let it cool for about 10 minutes. Well, our traditional stock is looking and smelling good. Now, as soon as it starts to simmer, we're going to lower it from high all the way down to the lowest setting you have. I'm talking low simmer. So at this point, we'll go ahead and get our lid on with a little cracking vent in there, and we'll let this puppy go for at least 14, 16 hours. In the meantime, we're going to put our Instant Pot stock in the refrigerator now that it's cooled off a bit from the sink. And during the night, the fat's going to rise to the top and we'll easily move it in the morning. So, see you in the morning. So now for the results. Instant Pot, 2 hours. Regular stock pot, 12 hours. Only way to find out, taste. Wow, the fat content floated to the top, gelled nicely, but the Instant Pot is a little lighter in color than our stock pot. We'll remove both, skim off, and discard. This one is not as firm, but then again, it was only in the fridge for about 4 hours. We're going to heat up about 1 cup of each and add 1/16 of a teaspoon of salt. Look how dark this one is, man. Who do you think the winner is?
Not the Instant Pot.
Nope. They're very close. I mean, it's not that much of a difference in the color, although the stock pot's a little darker. This is the Instant Pot. I like that. Much better than that canned stuff. There's a dog over here. Really? Let's try the stock pot. Oh my God. Wow. I hands down, stock pot all the way. I mean, it is rich, rich. It tastes almost as if it's been reduced like 3 times from the Instant Pot. It's very convenient, but if I'm gonna make a demi-glaze out of this, I'm gonna be using the stock pot. So we're definitely gonna be taking some of this and reducing it down even further, maybe another 8-10 hours to make a nice demi-glaze for some wonderful sauces. It's very, very healthy for your gut, your hair, your intestines. It's just fantastic. Stock pot, winner. Instant Pot, very good. But hey, either way, you're doing it yourself. You're saving money and you're making it taste 10 times better. Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We got a lot more recipes coming out every week. So take care and let's eat.